So I statements are a great way in helping with conflict and dealing with tough conversations. But the thing is, we're not always in conflict. So how do we practice it practically? All right, so in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 3 simple exercises that I've done, that I've learned through therapy, anger management, a whole bunch of other things that have helped me practice I statements without the conflict. So that way when conflict does come, I can effectively communicate my emotions without going into you statements or blaming or anything like that. First off, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a anything-ist. I am someone who had to learn the hard way to be able to effectively communicate my emotions, to manage my anger. And this is all court issued. And I share this way back about going to jail and whatnot. So 52 weeks anger management, 52 weeks therapy, 52 weeks everything to show that I was no danger to family. And honestly, it was a blessing in disguise, because I kind of became a product of the product. I was very hungry to learn and improve my communication, to be able to process my emotions. So it's one thing to know what I statements are, to know it in theory, but it's very different to put it to practice. And we all know that in the heat of the moment, sometimes emotions get the best of us. So this is why we practice. Doing all this will, 1, bring awareness to your emotions. You'll start identifying it, which is important. Yoda said, like, identify your fears must before you conquer them. So yeah, identify your emotions, and then that way you can start communicating. And 2, it allows you to create the repetitions and habits to communicate your emotions. And ultimately, number 3, it prepares you in how to communicate via I statements what you're feeling effectively when you're actually in conflict. So before we go into these exercises, I do want to say that, these are exercises that have worked for me personally. And all I'm doing for this video is I'm sharing with you that what has worked for me, that's gone from very low risk to practical use. Like I said, when conflict does come, I feel prepared because I've been putting so much practice. If anger management or therapy or anything like that is something that you've been wanting to check out, I encourage it. So the first thing is bullet journaling. Very simple. The first thing that I always write in my bullet journal in the morning and even at night is I write down what I'm currently feeling at that moment. I think, at least just from my speculation, a lot of us feel certain things, but we don't necessarily, this is now speaking from me, that maybe we just haven't had time to really reflect and identify what we're truly feeling. Yeah, sitting and writing it down allows you to kind of slow it down. And it's simple. All I'm doing is writing the emotion. Feeling sad, feeling tired, feeling sad, in the most basic form. I generally don't go into like the whole reason why. I'm just identifying and kind of more checking in. And yeah, more often than not, how often are we checking out than checking in? Both are important, but sometimes it's important to check in, see where you're at, especially if you're busy or if you're finding yourself exhausted or all the things. So, all right, for this exercise, I have no idea what the name of the title is, or this exercise is. I'm just gonna call it split page journaling, because they're splitting things into half. You take a page, you fold it in half, and on the one side, you write with your least dominant hand, and you simply write, I feel whatever the emotion. And you're writing with your least dominant hand, and you write it in the most simple form. I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel anxious. And the whole point of it is, from what I learned and remember, is that you're activating a different part of the brain that you usually aren't activating when you're writing. And you're also kind of writing it as like the way it looks like on paper. It looks like as if a child was writing on it. So kind of like some inner child work. And then on the other side, the other half of the paper, you're writing with your more dominant hand. This is where like the adult version of you're an adult, but this is where the older version of you kind of comforts that emotion, that reassures. So for me, I found it as a great tool in simplifying it first, because when emotions come up, it can get very convoluted and very confusing. So going back to the basics of like, what are you feeling? And then the next step of, obviously you want to kind of look into it, reflect, but see how you can reassure yourself, like things are going to be okay. Eventually just nurture it. That's a powerful way of processing emotions in its most basic form and then you being, in a sense, the superhero that your inner child needs. The next thing is using more practical communication with your friends or even your therapist if you have one. So this is pretty straightforward. So when you're with trusted friends and family or with your therapist, preferably an environment where you feel safe, where you feel it like it's okay to be maybe vulnerable, to be honest, this is a great opportunity to put into practice. Say you guys watched a movie, you guys are talking to a specific moment, and like, hey, what do you think about this moment? Oh yeah, I felt pretty sad when such and such happened. Oh, I felt pretty excited when this happened. Again, identifying and sharing your emotions about a situation. It's just practicing it without the conflict. Like, doing this right now, I feel a little anxious, but I also feel very excited because I haven't done this type of video in a long time, and I've been wanting to do a kind of these I statement active listening videos forever. I've just been busy. So that right there is a simple way of just communicating what you feel. Simple I statement practice. And even better, like if you are with a therapist, it's a great opportunity as well. But like when they ask you, how do you feel about that? It's a pretty powerful question, and more often than not, we kind of just ignore that question. And I'm like, no, like I feel some type of way. Now, what type of way is it? Are you sad? Are you angry? Are you happy? Again, so the purpose of this video is for you to start practicing communicating what you're feeling, what's coming up for you. But to add this a disclaimer, you do not have control in how people react or respond to what you say, which can be rough and it can be triggering, but I'll make another video on that and doing the active listening beyond, when it's not in the format, so to speak, when they're not sharing via I statements themselves, because a lot of people don't know how to use I statements. A lot of people will immediately go into you did this, like all these things, and those types of conversations honestly do get tougher. All right, so there you have it. 3 simple exercises in practicing I statements from a guy who kind of went through the whole process and is kind of a product of the product. Again, not a therapist, but someone who's had to put a lot of practice into this. The main thing that I would love to hear from you guys is which of these 3 are gonna put into practice today and for the next 30 days. Comment down below, because it's one thing to watch a video and kind of hear knowledge, but the reason I'm doing this again is because I want to share knowledge that has helped me in almost the past decade and have you guys put into practice, not just once. Like, start off with a low bar mentor, do it for the rest of this week, and once you start getting some momentum, do it for the rest of the month. See how it's kind of rewiring how you're communicating, maybe even how it's impacting your relationships and friends. That's it. If you guys like this, do all the things. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.